You are tuned in to the LowBand Show, broadcasting from the storm drains under the big city, where a tunnel crew runs this booth on salvaged gear, pipes humming, steady water dripping, piping surface science and tech news on a low-band signal through the drains. I'm your host, Max Hertz. Welcome in. Here's what we do. We take real science and tech news from the surface, summarize it, then go deeper to educate, entertain, and shed light on what's in store for our collective future. News from the net, clear signal, and a little tunnel. If you came for hype, you took a wrong turn at the storm drain.
Welcome in. Max Hertz here, and it's good to have you with us. Wiz, good to have you in the booth today.
Good to be back, Max. Ready when you are.
Today we're looking at control, tracking, and how people are pushing back against surveillance. We've got the legal defense of an engineer charged with taking down flock cameras, and how a Windows 11 code led police to a ransomware suspect. We'll also look at Australian teens outsmarting social media bans, and Texas getting the green light for mobile app age checks. And finally, we'll dive into the secret tracker shaking up users of Anthropic's Claude. Let's get into it.
The outlet the cameras were sometimes pointed in the wrong direction or thrown to the street reported on July 4th, 2026. Here's the headline. Hundreds support legal defense for engineer charged with destroying flock surveillance cameras. This battle is about public consent. Wiz, support is real.
Rallying behind someone who takes a chainsaw to public property is certainly a choice, but it shows the deep friction when communities feel automated dragnet surveillance is forced on them without consent.
According to the report, Virginia-based engineer Jeffrey Sovereign is facing 13 counts of destruction of property and 6 counts of both petite larceny and possession of burglary tools for damaging cameras. Wiz, for listeners who may not know, what exactly is a license plate camera?
It is an automated camera system that snaps a photo of every passing car, reads the plate, and logs the time and location into a searchable database. It essentially builds a passive tracking grid of your movements.
And the community's reaction is intense. Armed with garbage bags, spray paint, and even chainsaws, a not insignificant number of privacy vigilantes have taken the fight to flock to free their neighborhoods.
Chainsaws definitely signal a breakdown in democratic municipal debate. When citizens feel they have zero legal recourse to opt out of automated surveillance, some will inevitably bring their own hardware to the poll.
Sovereign set up a GoFundMe page and noted, privacy-minded vandalism has far more support than would outwardly appear. His initial target of $8,500 stood at $23,326 from over 680 donors. Wiz, does a searching fund change the legal landscape?
Not in criminal court, but it sends a massive signal to local governance. It shows that funding surveillance without public buy-in creates a public relations nightmare and a very expensive physical maintenance problem.
Whether these physical pushbacks will force a policy shift or just lead to harsher criminal charges remains highly uncertain. We will keep tracking this story. Back after the break. This one made me sit up. If you think your operating system's telemetry is just harmless diagnostic data, think again. Tom's Hardware reported on July 5th, 2026, that a Windows 11 hardware identifier was used to arrest a 19-year-old over an alleged ransomware spree. It matters because it shows how OS tracking connects to real-world investigations. Wiz, look at how this teenager was caught. 19-year-old Peter Stokes is a dual U.S.-Estonian citizen who was trying to board a flight to Japan from Helsinki when law enforcement caught up with him.
Classic flight risk move. Trying to slip away to Tokyo before the walls close in. But the real story isn't the passport. It's how they traced his digital ghost back to physical silicon. He thought he was anonymous, but Windows was taking notes.
They certainly were. The report states, Microsoft played a key role in the process by providing GDID data to the FBI to help them apprehend the alleged criminal. Wiz, for listeners who may not know, what is GDID?
It stands for Global Device Identifier. It is a unique code Microsoft assigns to every single Windows installation to track hardware-specific telemetry for licensing and updates. Basically, it binds your software license to your specific motherboard and CPU. If you change major parts, your license breaks because your GDID changes.
And that code was his undoing. The article continues. The court documents from the case reveal that Stokes used Windows, from which investigators were able to link his physical hardware to specific internet activity and locations. Stokes' web activity, video game history, IP addresses, tool usage, including ngrok, Azure status, and more were logged with timestamps and were provided to the investigators by Microsoft.
Talk about a telemetry goldmine. He was running ngrok tunnels and playing video games on the same Windows installation. Microsoft had a complete time-stamped log of his digital life. You can hide behind VPNs all day, but your own operating system will happily whistle and point right at you.
There was also a physical trail. The report says the official criminal complaint even includes a selfie photo that Stokes posted on Snapchat, hiding his face behind dozens of $100 bills. It then notes that behind Stokes, the wallpaper, carpet, and furniture match New York's Empire Hotel, and that Stokes had visited the hotel's website in Germany.
Brilliant. OPSEC is only as strong as your weakest Snapchat flex. You run a $100 million ransomware syndicate, but you get undone by hotel wallpaper and Windows telemetry. It is the ultimate crossover of high-tech tracking and low IQ bragging.
The extent to which GDID telemetry is routinely used in federal criminal cases remains unclear. Whether this sets a new precedent for software tracking and privacy remains to be seen. We'll be right back after this short break. The headline promises a strict social media ban on teens. Let's look at what the compliance numbers actually say. Euronews reported on June 29, 2026, that Australia plans to double fines for platforms that fail to keep under 16s off restricted services. Wiz, here's what's actually happening. Regulators found 70% of children with accounts remained active 3 months after the ban took effect.
70% is not a bypass. That is a complete system failure. When you tell teenagers they can't have something, they don't go away. They just find a workaround. Doubling the fines sounds tough, but if you can't enforce the boundary, the number on the ticket is irrelevant.
The draft rules seek to expand powers. The text says the amendments would also expand the powers of eSafety Commissioner Julie Inman-Grant to demand information and documents from platforms and from third parties such as age assurance technology providers. Wiz, for listeners who might not know, what does age assurance actually mean in practice?
Age assurance is the umbrella term for technology that estimates or verifies a user's age, using anything from facial analysis to database checks before letting them log in. The government wants to investigate how kids are bypassing these systems. It's an arms race where the kids are currently winning.
The government is laying the blame squarely on the companies. Here is what Communications Minister Anika Wells told the Australian Broadcasting Corporation on Monday. We can all agree we would like the scheme to work better than it is currently, but that is on big tech taking the mickey.
Taking the mickey is a polite way of saying the platforms are treating this as a suggestion.
The platforms know that keeping kids off requires intrusive surveillance, which users hate, or perfect age checks, which don't exist. They'll pay a fine before they destroy their user growth metrics.
The regulator is looking at legal remedies. The text notes, Inman-Grant said in April she was considering court action against those platforms and YouTube, alleging they were not taking reasonable steps to exclude children. She did add that she was satisfied with progress made by X, Kick, Reddit, Threads, and Twitch.
The distinction between those platforms is hilarious. X and Reddit are apparently doing enough, while Meta and TikTok are getting threatened with court. It shows this isn't just about technical feasibility, it's about which platforms have the largest, most visible teenage user bases, and the most to lose from strict enforcement.
There is political pushback, too. Senior opposition lawmaker Jane Hume said, the legislation was clearly undercooked in the first place. the e-safety commissioner wasn't given the powers to be able to pursue these big tech companies. Wiz, where does the real leverage lie?
The leverage lies in whether the regulator can actually audit the proprietary algorithms and verification tech. Without the power to demand internal data from the platforms and the third-party providers, the government is just guessing at how the kids are circumventing the ban. Doubling the fines only works if you can prove noncompliance.
Whether these increased penalties and expanded regulatory powers will actually stop teenagers from bypassing the ban remains highly uncertain. We will keep a close eye on how this draft legislation progresses in the coming weeks. We'll be right back after this short break.
The fight here is really about who controls access to digital storefronts and whether the state can gatekeep what kids download. CNN reported on July 6, 2026, that the Supreme Court is letting Texas enforce its mobile app age verification law while legal battles play out. Wiz, the implications of this one are massive.
Massive is an understatement. This isn't a final ruling, but letting the law take effect during litigation means the infrastructure for age gating has to go live. We are looking at a state-level regulatory filter on the entire app distribution ecosystem.
Let's look at what the state is targeting. Texas told the Supreme Court, a minor child who downloads a software application from an app store agrees to contractual terms of service, including whether the child's location will be tracked, whether the child's privacy will be protected, whether information from the child's phone can be sold by the developer, and whether the child waives the right to sue.
So they are framing this as consumer protection and contract law, but that framing completely ignores the speech side of things. It's using the terms of service as a Trojan horse to regulate access to the content itself.
That speech argument is exactly where the tech groups are pushing back. Wiz, for listeners who may not know, what exactly is the Fifth Circuit that let this law go into effect?
The Fifth Circuit is one of the federal appeals courts, historically known for being highly conservative. They put the lower court's block on hold, which paved the way for Texas to start enforcing this. It's basically the final gate before the Supreme Court.
And the tech industry groups say letting it stand has major stakes. The trade group, whose members include Apple and Google, warned that allowing the law to take effect would have profound consequences for the protection of digital speech.
And they are right to worry. If every state passes its own version of this, app stores will have to build 50 different verification systems. It's a logistical nightmare masquerading as safety, and the precedent for online anonymity is pretty grim.
How this litigation plays out in the lower courts, and whether the Supreme Court eventually takes up a full review, remains highly uncertain. We'll track the legal challenges as they develop. Back in a moment. The Washington Post reported on July 6, 2026. Here's the headline. Secret Claude tracker shocks users. This is a massive story because it clashes directly with the developer's public stance against surveillance. Wiz, this is drawing intense heat.
This is a massive hit to their credibility. A company that builds its brand on safety and trust, getting caught running secret tracking is an incredibly bad look. They pitch themselves as the ethical alternative, but this behavior says otherwise.
The report says developer The Rallo was investigating Claude code and found Anthropic using prompt steganography to track Chinese users in plain sight. Wiz, for listeners who might not know, what is Claude code?
Anthropic is the AI safety firm behind the model, and Claude Code is their developer tool. Prompt steganography means they hid tracking instructions inside model prompts in plain sight, transmitting time zone and proxy data that most users wouldn't detect.
According to the Post, the code quietly flagged users' proxy and time zone. On X, Anthropic engineer Tariq Shihipar confirmed the tracker was an experiment, stating it was meant to prevent account abuse from unauthorized resellers and protect against distillation. Wiz, how does that explanation hold up?
It is a highly questionable excuse. Distillation, which is copying a model's capabilities to train a competitor, is a legitimate corporate concern. However, resorting to secret telemetry to combat it completely undermines their anti-surveillance rhetoric. You cannot claim the moral high ground while running hidden user profiling.
whether Anthropic can rebuild trust with developer communities, or if we will see more aggressive hidden telemetry from AI firms, remains highly unclear. We will keep tracking this story. Back after the break.
That is our board for today. We've looked at physical and digital friction across the map, from concrete blockades to hidden lines of code. We saw physical resistance with crowdfunding backing the destruction of flock surveillance cameras, side by side with the deep digital telemetry of Windows 11 identifier codes tracking down an alleged ransomware operator. Then we turn to the regulatory side, where Australian teenagers are already outsmarting social media bans, while the Supreme Court allows Texas to proceed with age verification for mobile apps. And finally, that secret tracker in Claude leaves us questioning how much hidden telemetry developer communities will tolerate from AI firms. The boundaries of privacy are shifting fast, and none of these disputes are settled. We have more stories queued up for the next session, and we will pick up these threads as soon as the next signal drops.
It's certainly a lot to consider. If we missed an angle or you have further questions on these topics, please drop us a comment. We read them down here in the tunnel. And if this signal helped you stay informed, a like or subscribe keeps the pipes humming. More surface news and deeper dives are coming through the grate soon. Until then, stay curious, and we'll catch you next time on the LowBand Show.